Behind every royal headline, there's a hidden truth. The world is watching The Crown once again. This is Golden Crown Insider, where royal secrets become headlines. Today we are not inside Buckingham Palace. We are not in Montecito. We are not in a courtroom or a boardroom or behind closed palace doors. Today, we are in the one place where the most powerful people in the world have absolutely no control over what is said about them. We are in late-night America. And we are talking about the jokes, the savage, brutal, nationally televised jokes that Hollywood's biggest comedians have been firing at Meghan Markle and Prince Harry for years. Jokes that have made entire studio audiences roar with laughter. Jokes that sources say have genuinely stung. And jokes that, when you line them all up together, tell a story far more revealing than any royal documentary ever could. Because when comedians start making jokes about you, not once, not twice, but year after year after year, it is not just comedy anymore. It is a cultural verdict. And the verdict on Harry and Meghan in Hollywood has been delivered repeatedly from some of the most watched television stages in America. Subscribe right now if you are new here. Hit that bell icon, because Golden Crown Insider goes deeper than the headlines. And today, we are going all the way through every moment Hollywood turned its cameras on the Sussexes and laughed. Let's start at the very beginning. March 2021, the Oprah interview has just aired. The entire world is still processing what Harry and Meghan said. The racism allegations, the mental health revelations, the claim that a senior royal asked about their unborn baby's skin color. It is one of the most explosive royal moments in modern history. The palace is in crisis. The British press is outraged. And across America, people are watching, including Jimmy Kimmel. The very next day after the Oprah interview aired, Kimmel devoted a significant portion of his opening monologue on Jimmy Kimmel Live to the Sussexes. He described the interview as one that would surely go down in history as the most shocking gender reveal party of all time. International Business Times. The audience erupted. And just like that, Harry and Meghan became late-night material. Kimmel did not stop there. He went straight after Harry's accusations, joking that while the prince had some claims of his own, the governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, vigorously denied all of them. International Business Times. Now that joke landed in a very specific cultural moment, but the point was clear. Even in the middle of one of the most serious and emotional royal moments in living memory, Jimmy Kimmel found a way to make it funny. And America laughed, but that was just the opening act. Fast forward to January 2023, Harry's memoir Spare has just been published. It is the fastest-selling nonfiction book in UK publishing history. And inside its pages, Harry reveals things that nobody expected him to put in print. Details about his mental health, details about his relationship with William, details about drug use, and one particular detail that became so viral, so impossible to ignore, that it ended up on a late-night stage and made an entire studio audience fall out of their seats. Harry wrote about suffering frostbite on a very personal area of his body during a trip to the North Pole. Jimmy Kimmel could not let that go. Kimmel told his live audience that Prince Harold's book was so popular, they were now releasing a version for kids. He called it a twist on The Princess and the Pea, titled The Prince and the Penis. He then proceeded to read aloud from the fake children's book he had written, describing a silly young codger who took a walk in the snow and froze his wee todger. Woman and home. The audience completely lost control, and somewhere in Montecito, one can only imagine what Harry thought when the clips started circulating online. But here is the thing. Kimmel was not alone in making Harry and Meghan late-night targets. Around the same time, the jokes were coming from everywhere. And in January 2024, at one of the most prestigious events in Hollywood, the Golden Globes, the Sussexes were roasted without even being in the room. Host Joe Coy took direct aim at the couple, joking about their relationship with Netflix. He told the crowd that Harry and Meghan were still getting paid millions of dollars for doing absolutely nothing, and that was just by Netflix. The camera immediately cut to Netflix co-CEO Ted Sarandos sitting in the front row, who winced visibly before managing a smile. Feminegra A wince from the man who signed their deal at the most watched awards ceremony of the year. That single moment said more about the state of the Sussex brand in Hollywood than any press release ever could. Coy also joked about Harry's relationship with the late Queen Elizabeth, suggesting that Harry had called Imelda Staunton, who played the Queen in The Crown, to ask her for money. Feminegra. The audience laughed, and Harry and Meghan were not there to respond. But the joke that perhaps cut the deepest, the one that touched on something Meghan had spent years and enormous amounts of energy building, came not from Kimmel, but from his fellow late-night host, Jimmy Fallon. And it was aimed directly at With Love, Meghan, the Netflix lifestyle show that Meghan had positioned as the centerpiece of her reinvention as a Hollywood personality and lifestyle icon. During a Tonight Show segment in March 2025, Fallon and his sidekick Steve Higgins turned Meghan's show into a punchline. Higgins posed a mock scientific question framed as one of the great unsolved mysteries. Why does Meghan Markle make her own pretzel bags? Fallon mimicked the action, sarcastically praising the confusing effort of moving snacks from one bag to another. Daily Jang. The joke was a direct reference to a scene in With Love, Meghan, where the Duchess transferred store-bought Trader Joe's peanut butter pretzels into personalized bags tied with a bow, presenting them as a thoughtful, handmade gift for her guests. The internet had already been mercilessly mocking that scene for weeks. But when Fallon put it on national television, when a late-night host with millions of viewers turned it into a punchline in front of a live studio audience, it became something else entirely. It became the defining image of how Hollywood was now choosing to see Meghan Markle. Not as a duchess, not as a global icon, not as the powerful, stylish, socially conscious figure she had worked so hard to present to the world, but as a woman transferring pretzels from one bag to another and asking the world to be impressed. And With Love, Meghan had bigger problems than just one pretzel joke. The show debuted to harsh reviews, earning just a 36% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes. Reviewers consistently described it as superficial and out of touch. Despite celebrity cameos and glossy production values, the show ranked only 10th globally on Netflix in its first week, drawing just 2.6 million views, a fraction of the platform's biggest titles. Daily Jang, for context, Stranger Things, in its peak week, drew over 300 million viewing hours. With Love, Meghan drew 2.6 million total views. Those numbers were not what anyone at Netflix or in Montecito had hoped for. Critics who reviewed the show called episodes featuring DIY crafts and hosting tips overly curated and lacking in genuine personality. Audiences found it difficult to connect with a version of Meghan that felt more produced than real. Daily Jang. And then came something that many saw as the final signal that the cultural tide had fully turned. Jimmy Kimmel, who had been making Harry and Meghan jokes for years, reportedly called the show total trash during a segment on his program. Not complicated, not nuanced, just 3 words that landed like a verdict. Now here is where this story becomes genuinely fascinating, because the reaction to all of these jokes tells you just as much as the jokes themselves. When Kimmel mocked the Oprah interview in 2021, the Sussex fan base pushed back hard. They defended Harry and Meghan. They called the jokes disrespectful. They called for accountability. When Kimmel mocked Spare in 2023, some people still defended them. But the laughter in the studio was louder, and the online defense was smaller. When Fallon mocked With Love, Meghan in 2025, the pretzel clip went viral not because people were outraged. It went viral because people thought it was funny. Even people who had previously been sympathetic to the Sussexes were sharing the clip and laughing. That shift, that quiet, gradual shift from sympathetic audience to laughing audience, is the real story behind the jokes. Netflix CEO Ted Sarandos did eventually break his silence to defend Meghan following the Fallon roast, telling media that he was proud of the show and supportive of the Duchess. But his defense, while genuine, did not stop the jokes from continuing. Daily Jang. Because once late night America decides you are funny, once the jokes become bigger than the person, there is no press statement. No Netflix defense, no carefully crafted Instagram post that turns it back around. The cultural conversation has moved on. Now let's be honest. Because Golden Crown Insider always gives you the full picture. Some of these jokes cross a line. Comedy about real people, about their mental health, about deeply personal moments, about their bodies and their children, can go too far. And not every joke made at the expense of Harry and Meghan is fair. Some are cheap shots, some punch down. Some use real pain as a punchline in a way that says more about the comedian than it does about the subject. But the pattern, the sheer consistency of it, is something that cannot simply be dismissed. When Kimmel, Fallon, Coy, Conan, SNL, and British satire shows are all independently arriving at the same conclusion, that this couple is fair game, that their public persona invites mockery, that their gap between image and reality is wide enough to drive a joke through. That is not one comedian being unfair. That is an industry making a collective assessment. And here is the final question that this story asks, the one that nobody in the Sussex camp wants to sit with. If the jokes are wrong, if they are unfair, if they miss the point, if they punch at people who do not deserve it, why does the laughter keep getting louder? Why does each new joke land harder than the last? Why did the pretzel clip travel further than almost any piece of genuine journalism about Meghan's work? Why did Jimmy Kimmel's casual description of "with love," Meghan as total trash, get more traction than any of the show's actual reviews? The answer is uncomfortable, but it is real. Comedy works when it recognizes something true, when it points at a gap that the audience already feels but has not yet had the words for, and the gap that every comedian from Kimmel to Coy to Fallon has been pointing at, the gap between who Meghan and Harry say they are and how the world actually experiences them is a gap that has been widening for years. The jokes are not just jokes. They are a mirror. And right now, in living rooms, in studios, in late-night monologues watched by millions of Americans every single night, that mirror is reflecting something back at the Sussex brand that no amount of rebranding, no Netflix deal, no lifestyle show, and no carefully chosen Instagram caption can fix. Hollywood is laughing. Late-night America is laughing. And somewhere in Montecito, the Duchess of Sussex is very much not. That is the hidden truth today. And it landed with a punchline. If this video opened your eyes, give it a thumbs up right now. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you have not subscribed to Golden Crown Insider yet, do it right now. Every single day, we bring you the stories behind the royal headlines. The ones that cut deeper than the news. The ones that reveal what is really happening behind the crown. This is Golden Crown Insider, and we will see you in the next one.